It's your home for the first reaction and analysis after the Dogs play. This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Cercheros, Royal Caribbean, and Georgia Spa Company. Now live from the UGA bookstore in Athens, here's your host, Brandon Adams.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to our DawgNation Postgame show. We are live here at the UGA bookstore, the brand new look UGA bookstore, recently renovated and remodeled, and what a gorgeous place this is, filled with Georgia apparel wall to wall, and also filled this evening with happy Georgia fans after Georgia gets a 45-7 season opening win today against the Marshall Thundering Herd. Over the course of the next couple of minutes, live from the UGA bookstore, we are going to cram so many opinions into this show. A lot of that's going to come from you. We've got people gathered here with us at the UGA bookstore. We're going to hear from them live on the scene here. We're going to invite you to call us here today, 678-645-DAWG. That's D-A-W-G, 678-645-DAWG. We're going to run through as many phone calls as we can. We already have folks on the hold. If you're on hold, stay where you are. We're going to get there. We got folks lining up here. We're going to talk to you here. If you're watching live on video right now, there's a link that you can click on any of our chats. You can join the show via Zoom. Tonight, we will hear from Georgia fans everything you liked, what you want to see more of. Maybe if there's an area you think in which Georgia still needs some improvement, we will talk to you about all of that. We will also hear in just a couple of seconds, get a chance to hear from the terrific former Georgia Bulldog, a beloved member of this program's past, Rodrigo Blankenship. You saw him Thursday on DawgNation Daily. You had a great time with that. Rodrigo going to join us again, hot rod, a part of our DawgNation postgame show. That also comes up in just a couple of minutes. Before we get the opinions going here, let me run through a couple of things that I thought important about today's game. First of all, the one thing that we said throughout the week that we wanted to see, we got our ultimate wish on this. Georgia came out, got off to the fast start. We said if you're looking for a way to define what fast start would be, Georgia was a 9.5-point favorite in the first quarter. You don't have to bet the game. You don't even have to care about point spreads, but you can think about that as a stated expectation for the outcome. Well, Georgia comes down on its opening drive after getting a 3-and-out, marches down the field, scores a touchdown. After that, gets another stop, and then got another score. That, to me, was about everything you could wish for. Anything that happened after that is, frankly, going to be based on the team that Georgia is compared to the opponent that it was playing. But when you get off to that fast start, you're not just playing the opponent, you're also racing against the clock. Georgia, the last 2 years, has not always, even against what we might perceive to be lesser competition, hasn't always gotten off to the fast start. Today it did. And then beyond that, I thought we saw today the emergence of certainly two playmakers, if not three new aspects of the Georgia offense that are going to be really important, we believe, throughout this season. You're going to mention Gunnar Stockton, what he did on the ground today. 2 rushing touchdowns, a real threat to run. Opposing defenses that will face Gunnar Stockton, when they watch this film, they will have to know that in game planning, whether he runs this much in the future or not, they have to contend with that, have to consider what Stockton might be able to do with his legs. I think Georgia showed that on film in a very interesting way today. That certainly gives Georgia's future opponents something to think about that. Beyond that, I'll say this. How much did you love Zachariah Branch now in a UGA uniform? He obviously has the 48-yard touchdown, but I thought he showed a real dynamic level when catching the football that the Georgia wide receiving core has needed. I think Branch has the ability to provide that. And one more thing I'll mention here. I think the insertion into the offensive rotation, we predicted this would happen based on those who've watched scrimmages and watched practice. We predicted we might see this, and today we did. Dwight Phillips is going to be a part of this Georgia offense this season. He has the season's first touchdown. I believe that's symbolic. We still think that Nate Frazier is going to be the leading rusher, but we've had every indication that Phillips was going to be a major part of the rotation. Today, that's exactly what it worked out to be a guy that gave Georgia explosive runs. Even the best Georgia teams in recent memory haven't always necessarily had the explosive runs. But that's one of the things that Phillips was racking up today. Double-digit runs, double-digit yardage runs, I mean to say, really providing an extra spark. So 2 new playmakers in the case of Zachariah Branch and Dwight Phillips. A major part of this today, Gunnar Stockton, what he did with his legs, that's a brand new dimension, I would say, for the Georgia offense. It's one of the reasons why Georgia's able to build the big lead in this football game. Now, we'll also give credit to the Georgia defense. Its stated goal is to limit rushing yards. Statistically speaking, that's certainly going to be true today. So a lot to like about Georgia overall. The final score is 45-7. That's what Georgia does. They come out and get it done. Now, we're going to get a lot of phone calls here. We're going to talk to a lot of folks. We're also going to hear from Rodrigo Blankenship. I'll remind you, our home away from home when Georgia's here at Sanford Stadium is at the UGA bookstore. So if you're leaving a Georgia game, in fact, if you're leaving a Georgia game right now, come over here and be part of this here today. You can shop all the great-looking UGA apparel, the Peter Millar, the Vineyard Vines, the Nike coaches gear, all the stuff. You see all those good-looking Georgia fans wearing all the time. The place to get all of that is right here at the UGA bookstore. Also, pregame autograph signings even after the game, too. So many things to enjoy when it comes to the UGA bookstore, and they have the brand-new customized shop, too, where you can take advantage of the jerseys and things like that, get those specially customized here as well. All of that courtesy of the UGA bookstore. That's where we are today, having a great time. All sorts of Georgia fans hanging out. We're going to hear from many of them coming up. So if you're waiting to be on the show, hang right where you are. We'll get to you right away. Let me also say hello to Rodrigo Blankenship here right now, the great former Dawg. Rodrigo, you've been a part of many season openers for Georgia in the past. You certainly know the excitement that Georgia fans have when the season begins. And today, for the most part, that excitement, I think Georgia fans left satisfied. 45-7 is the final. Georgia handles business against an overmatched Marshall Thundering Herd today. Rodrigo, what did you see from Georgia in this game today?
Yeah, I saw a lot of really encouraging signs from Georgia today, really in all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams. I think there are a lot of good signs that we saw. Obviously, Gunnar in his first start at home at Sanford Stadium, getting to play in front of the home crowd. I thought that he did some really good things, especially with his legs today, so that was really encouraging. On the defense, you got to see some new faces flying around and making tackles and making names for themselves on the defensive side of the ball today. And then on special teams as well, we got a block punt in our first game of the season. So anytime that you can have game-changing plays in special teams, that's going to be a really good indicator for your success for your team in a season. So saw a lot of really good things in all 3 phases, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to continue to do to find ways to win throughout the rest of this season.
And Rodrigo, I think I bring up a very interesting point. As a specialist yourself, you know how much Kirby Smart craves those big plays on special teams. KJ Bolden getting a punt block. It's been a while since we've seen Georgia do that, but getting that punt block today, I'm guessing certainly on the sideline we saw evidence of this, maybe in the locker room too, that Kirby Smart may end up celebrating that as much as anything that happened today. He loves those big-time game-changing plays in special teams, and being a part of the special teams units for Georgia for as long as you were, you probably know that about as well as anybody, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that Coach Smart is going to be very excited to rewatch that tape when they get back to watching film next week. I'm sure that's going to be one of the highlights of this game when we go over the quote-unquote good, bad, and ugly tape. So I'm sure he's going to be very excited for that. It was really great to see, especially someone like KJ Bolden, who, you know, we all know is going to be a big playmaker for the team on defense, that he is giving his maximum effort and his maximum intensity on special teams as well. Just to see your really key players are going to give that kind of effort on special teams is going to be a really good sign for this team. So it was great to see that. They took advantage of the spread punt protection. We had kind of the end of the formation. A guy crashed down because we loaded up on the inside of the formation, and that left a short edge for KJ Bolden to just come screaming off and get that block punt. So that was really great to see. I know that Coach Smart is going to be super excited for that. And, I just look forward to seeing the special teams continue to make an impact the rest of the season.
All right, so Rodrigo, hang right where you are. We're going to start running through some of our calls. Let Georgia fans react here a bit too. In fact, we've had folks holding on for a while. So let's jump to Jonathan in Hawkinsville. Jonathan, going to be first up with me, Rodrigo Blankenship, Hot Rod tonight on our DawgNation Postgame show. I'm live at the UGA bookstore. Georgia gets a 45-7 win. Jonathan, what did you see about what you saw here tonight?
I thought it was fantastic. Some of the calls on offense were a little bit vanilla. I'm not gonna lie, but the O-line did good. Defense looked fantastic. Gunner did fantastic, and Pug, he's got a good arm and he's got some wheels. And I'd be amiss to say if I can't. Good to see Hot Rod respect the specs.
I love that, Jonathan. We do respect the specs around here when it comes to our guy, Rodrigo Blankenship. And, Rodrigo, how about a point that Jonathan made there, the fact that Gunner Stockton showed off his wheels? How much of an extra weapon is that for the Georgia offense when you do have the running quarterback, when the opposing defense has to consider that? We saw Stockton get 2 rushing touchdowns today, had a chance at maybe another, but it gives, in my mind, the opposing defense so much more to think about. What did you think about the dimension we saw with Gunner Stockton's legs here today?
Yeah, I thought that Gunner made a really big impact with his legs today, and it makes me think about a few years ago when we had a guy named Stetson Bennett running the offense, and Stetson was also very adept on the ground and added that extra layer to the Georgia offense where the defense has to respect your quarterback in the run game. And we saw Gunner had 2 touchdowns on zone reads where the defense is committed to the fact that they think that the Gunner's going to hand the ball off to the running back, and then Gunner decides to pull it, and then he's got untouched path going into the end zone on 2 separate occasions. So, the ESPN broadcast was mentioning that they felt like Gunner's wheels was an underappreciated part of his game, but I think that going forward in the rest of the season, it's not going to be underappreciated anymore. Everybody that watches this game and watches this tape is going to see that Gunner is a legitimate threat on the ground, and it definitely is going to, I think, open up the Georgia offense in a way that we haven't seen since a few years ago when we had Stetson running the show. So I'm very excited for that, and hopefully he can continue to make an impact with his legs and keep defenses honest and keep our offense at an advantage going forward.
You see the numbers, by the way, on your screen for Gunner Stockton here today. It was a workmanlike effort through the air. Obviously, the Zachariah Branch touchdown throw kind of puts a little extra shine on that. For the most part, maybe not as efficient through the air today as maybe Georgia would have liked to have been. But, Rodrigo, I think you bring up a great point in comparing him to Stetson Bennett. In some ways, I think that Stetson and Gunner are different kinds of runners. But in 2022, Stetson Bennett had 10 rushing touchdowns. Theoretically, that's 70 points. And Georgia didn't play very many close games in 2022, but in a year in which you expect to play a handful of close games, an additional 70 points coming because of your quarterback and what he can do on the ground, Rodrigo, that could be the difference between, at least one win, if not, maybe even more than that, when you're getting that kind of scoring boost from what your quarterback is doing on the ground. I just think that makes close games easier to win.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we saw the value in having a quarterback that can be efficient with his legs in another game that just ended in the Alabama and Florida State game, where Florida State's Thomas Castellanos was very effective on the ground as well and gave Alabama fits throughout the game, and I think was a difference maker in why FSU was able to come away with a win to beat Bama to open the season. So, I think all of us Georgia fans, if we're going to go and see that game, that should hopefully get us a little bit excited that the fact that we also have a very good quarterback who's adept at running the ball, that could present some problems for Alabama's defense when we match up with them in a few weeks. So, very excited to see Gunner do what he did today, and hopefully that will continue when we get to some of our tighter matchups when we get here in a few weeks later in the season.
I think that's well said. We got a Georgia fan live on the scene with us here, looking good. Thanks for being a part of our DawgNation postgame show. Tell everybody what your name is, and then you can share your thoughts on the game today.
Absolutely. So Darius from Dallas. I think
is that Dallas, Georgia, Dallas, Texas?
Dallas, Georgia.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Yep, absolutely. No, I think the game is great. I think that Gunner showed some guts, and he was able to score some touchdowns, which was great. Zach was amazing, right? We knew that was going to be a thing, so he did great. Defense stepped up. They looked really good. I love seeing Raylan Wilson kind of get some tackles, and he was active on special teams as well. So love to see what we saw today.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about Raylan Wilson, in that we know Raylan's a good player, but we also know at inside linebacker, Georgia's so deep, where C.J. Allen's being mentioned as maybe the next Georgia player that could win the Buckets Award. The backups are Chris Cole and Justin Williams. Those are 2 of the most athletic guys in the entire roster. Sometimes it almost feels like Raylan Wilson, through no fault of his own, and this is not a negative against him, has almost been the overlooked member of that quartet. But boy, I thought that Raylan today, and what is now as a veteran presence on this roster, I think you bring up a good point. I think Raylan Wilson reminded folks of what he can also be at the linebacker position.
100%. And I think, it was great to see that, not only from Raylan, but from the rest of our linebackers as well. But, yeah, Raylan Wilson has definitely been one of those players that we've kind of overlooked. Oh, yeah, we want him to step up, and he showed it today.
Man, I think that's a great point. Thanks for being a part of the show. Really appreciate that. Great stuff there. We got a lot of Georgia fans hanging out with us live. We're going to talk to them here at the UGA bookstore. We got folks on hold. Don't forget, you can give us a call, 678-645-DAWG. That's DAWG, 678-645-DAWG. You can also click the link and be with us there, too. And Rodrigo, to bring you back in on this, obviously a point there about the Georgia defense. In addition to that, this is a unit that had stated explicitly throughout the offseason they wanted to be good against the run. Now, admittedly, there's only so much you can prove against Marshall. We all understand that. But that's also the only team you could play today. That was the team on your schedule. So to see Georgia come out and shutting down the run game, really allowing nothing on the ground for the most part to Marshall, how much of a boost is it for Georgia to, at least in week one, as they step into the season, eventually stepping up in competition? But how big is it for Georgia to be able to go out and, at least for 1 week, accomplish one of its stated goals? You would imagine that must be a bit of a boost for the Georgia defense overall.
Yes, I have to imagine it will be a boost for the defense. I had the stats pulled up, so the defense gave up 207 total yards today, but only 78 rushing yards. So definitely nice when you can keep that rushing total under triple digits. I know that that's a goal for Coach Smart, as he always wants to keep the opponent under 100 rushing yards in a game. And when you can do that, you feel like you've got a really good chance to win, and your defense is playing winning football. So I have to imagine the defense is going to definitely have some positive to take away. I know that Coach Smart is going to hold the defense to an extremely high standard himself. Coach Lanning, the whole defensive staff, they're going to hold this team to a high standard, because that's what they have to do if they're going to continue to have success when we get to some more superior competition in a few weeks. But I think there were definitely a lot of encouraging signs. As a fan that we just had on had mentioned, there were some guys that we hadn't really heard a whole lot about before, finally getting some action, getting some opportunities, and they made some names for themselves today. So it was really encouraging to see some of the signs that we saw from the defense, and hopefully they continue to shut down the run and maintain control of the line of scrimmage and set the tempo throughout the rest of the season.
You see the tail of the tape there in terms of what both these offenses were able to do. Obviously a huge imbalance in favor of Georgia, which is exactly the way we like it. All right, let's get more of our calls here. If you're on hold, stay where you are. We'll get Cassie and Conyers. Cassie, you're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show. Cassie, thanks for your time here tonight. How about them Dogs? Great to hear from you. What did you think about the Georgia Bulldogs here today?
I thought they did great on all sides of the ball. I love the fact that we have a QB that can run, because that is something that I think when you're lacking it, you notice. And another thing is consistent kicking. I think we've been very good about that, but as we all know, remember the Rose Bowl, kicking matters. When you need it, it matters. So I thought that they did a great job, and the defense is always, going to do well, and I think they did really well this time. But again, I think all sides of the ball, they did great, and I'm excited we're back.
Cassie, I think that's really well said, and I appreciate your call, and I think all of that very, very strong points. And Rodrigo, as she said, it certainly seems like that Georgia, once again, very sound in the kicking game here right now. What do you think about Georgia specialists here? Obviously, injury-wise, did not get to see Brett Thorson today. We've grown to appreciate what Drew Miller is able to do. Didn't have to punt today a lot, which you're always glad to see. But also, once again, the long lineage of great Georgia place kickers. It certainly seems like that's continuing with Peyton Woodring, is it not?
Yes, I believe so. I want to give a shout-out to Peyton Woodring, Bo Gardner, and to Brett Thorson as well. They were all preseason All-SEC. Those guys have all done some really good things for the University of Georgia in their careers, and I think that they're all going to do really special things again this season. Like you said, we didn't get to see Brett Thorson or Thor. He's not back yet. The broadcasters were talking about how he's been punting, but he hasn't been cleared for contact yet. But it sounds like he's almost back, and he's almost ready to go to make an appearance for the Red and Black again. So I'll be very excited to see him back out on the field. But Georgia continues to have really high-quality specialists. It's been really great to see. Peyton's done really great things the last 2 years, and I think he's going to continue to do really well this season. Bo's been rock solid for us, and Drew, obviously filling in last year for Brett, did well, and he also did well again today in his limited appearances. So I think it needs to continue to be a strong suit for the University of Georgia to have quality specialists and special teams across the board, and that can definitely be a difference maker for us this season.
All right, Rodrigo, I hope you got your seatbelt buckled here because we're about to be joined on location at the UGA bookstore by a very prominent member of Dawg Nation. We know him as Randy from Tifton. Randy, Georgia gets the win. You're here to see it. What did you make of these Dogs here today?
Before I start talking about what I seen today, I want all the Alabama Roll Tears to cry tonight while Florida State fans is storming the field and you crying getting on the bus going back to Alabama to start with. And Texas, Texas runs the SEC. It comes through Athens. Who's the defending champs? It's the Bulldogs. Come on, baby, let's go. All right, what I thought about the game, it was very vanilla, but I loved it. I seen a lot of promise. We got a quarterback that can run now, plus pass, Bennett. Everything was great. I don't care what anybody says, we only scored 45 and we let them score. Who cares? We own the SEC. Georgia, we can play anybody. Like I told him the other day, I told B.A., when I ate some cereal the other day, I seen Bulldogs. But guess what? I ate some this morning, and I seen some elephants sinking, and I seen some longhorns sinking. Georgia runs the SEC, and I'm tired of talking about it.
How about Randy and Tifton, everybody? Randy, appreciate you.
Wait a minute, one more thing. I don't know if we got any tickets left to go to Knoxville, but if you want to get
I think we're sold out right now.
Oh, well, I tell you what.
I got people trying to get on the waiting list.
But we got the DawgNation Cruise next April. You want to go with like between 200 and 300 crazy dog fans, you'll have the time of your life, y'all. You need to come, go on a cruise with us, and you'll see what it's all about. Go Dogs from South Georgia, baby.
Good stuff there from Randy and Tiffany. Now, I will tell you, you got another second to get a register for your chance to win courtesy of Kroger. So if you go to DawgNation.com/contest, you can get registered to win right there because that's going on between now and September 1st, your chance to register to win. So that may be your last chance to get on board with our Kroger contest. So register for your chance. And Rodrigo, I told you, you had to be ready for that. Randy and Tifton letting it rip right there. How about what we saw from other SEC teams here today when it comes to Texas going to Ohio State and losing, and Arch Manning not looking particularly strong in his debut? And as you said, Thomas Castellanos for Florida State, he sort of called his shot there. He felt like he would be set up for success against Alabama. A lot of folks thought that was pretty premature, but as it turned out, it was actually prophetic. It seems like Tommy kind of knew what was coming there in that game. Both Alabama and Texas, a couple of the what we think of as standard bears in the SEC, neither of those teams looked particularly good today. Certainly a shocking upset in Tallahassee, and obviously a disappointing performance from Texas up in Columbus against the reigning national champs. What did you think about that?
Yeah, we had some very interesting outcomes for those games with Texas and Ohio State. I think that everyone was eagerly anticipating what Arch Manning would do with his first season, kind of being the guy for Texas, and definitely wouldn't say that he kind of lived up to the hype. A little bit underwhelming. I mean, he did all right. He kind of came alive in the fourth quarter, made a few plays to kind of keep them in the game. But I definitely think that if Texas is going to do what everyone thinks they're going to do this year, he's going to have to play better. But kudos to Ohio State. Their defense played lights out. Their offense did just enough to get the win. Obviously, being at home in the horseshoe, I think, played a factor as well. But, you know, good teams playing against each other early in the season, you never know what you're going to get. And shout out to Ohio State for playing well enough to get the win there. And then as we talked about earlier, Florida State getting the win over Alabama. Thomas Castellanos, you know, he's a very confident player, and he backed it up today with a big performance. And then I also look at another team that is going to be coming up later in our schedule that I think a lot of fans are going to have circled is Tennessee. And Tennessee, you know, hung a lot of points on Syracuse today. I know that Syracuse had a very strong season last year, and I think that there were some pretty decent expectations for their program for this year as well. But Tennessee, I think, has kind of put a stop to that pretty quickly. And Tennessee is trying to make some noise and let people know that, hey, even though we lost our starting quarterback to the transfer portal, we're here and, you know, we're about our business and we're going to be a serious threat in the SEC this year.
Rodrigo, before we say goodbye to you, I want to get a final thought from you coming up. Let me squeeze in one more with you before we get to your final thought, which you heard from Randy a moment ago. Other callers will mention this too, that, hey, sometimes and the word that gets used a lot is vanilla in a game like this. And I won't pretend to be an expert on what Georgia's game plan was, but to my eyes, and this is what I'm curious to hear about from you, I felt like we saw some interesting wrinkles from Georgia today in terms of how it tried to ignite its running game. I felt like you saw tight ends in motion, for instance. I felt like you saw a lot of movement where, oftentimes you kind of call that eye candy. I felt like you got a lot of eye candy from Georgia pre-snap and kind of kept the defense spread more lateral, and I thought that created a lot of opportunities for Georgia to run the ball today. I thought there was actually a good bit of that. I won't pretend to be, as I said before, a game planning expert necessarily, but I definitely thought you got some of that from Georgia, trying to be as creative as it could with the wrinkles that it was establishing.
Yeah, I think about some of the best offensive minds in the NFL right now. You have guys like Sean McVay, who I believe the statistic is something like pre-snap motion on over 70% of their offensive plays, and that can do a lot for you. You can give your quarterback indicators and give your quarterback more information about what to expect from the defense. If you send a player in motion pre-snap, or you shift your formation and the defense doesn't respond, then you might be thinking, oh, they're going to be in this certain type of defense. Or if you move players around and the defensive players move and match them on the formation, then you can expect that they're playing another type of defense. And so giving those pre-snap motions and that pre-snap movement, I think, is going to do a lot to help Gunner take in as much information as possible to set up the offense for success. And so even though it might have felt vanilla just because we saw zone reads or speed option or quick ins, quick outs, whatever the case may be, that's all building blocks for getting to the next tier of the offense when you have, I guess you want to say, more complex route running, more complex route combinations for the offense. You have to start somewhere. You have to build your way up to the final form of the offense, I guess you could say. So while it might have felt vanilla today, it was effective. And at the end of the day, if your offense is effective, if your offense is moving the ball, if you're minimizing turnovers, which you had 0 turnovers today, so check that box. If you're minimizing turnovers, if you're minimizing negative plays and keeping the chains moving, then that's all you can ask for as a fan.
Rodrigo, we love your analysis. It's been great to have you part of the show today. Any final thought from you before we say goodbye about what you've seen from Georgia or college football overall in what has already been a very busy week one?
Yes, it has been a very hectic week one. Even going back to week 0, we had a few interesting results from week 0 as well. I'm just going to be interested to see who's going to step up on the Georgia defense and become the big-time threat pass rushers. We had 2 very big departures last year, and Jalen Walker and Micah Williams both going on to the NFL, and I expect that they're going to do really good things as well. And so I'm going to be really interested to see who steps up and fills the gap for the Georgia defense, and it's going to become those household names that we can expect to affect the passer and get in the backfield and affect these SEC quarterbacks, because that's going to be a big component to our defense having long-term success this year.
Rodrigo, love your analysis. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you so much for being a part of our DawgNation Postgame show live here today from the UGA bookstore, and we'll certainly look for our chance to speak to you again very soon. Great stuff here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for having me on today. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed. That's great stuff from Rodrigo Blankenship. Now, coming up in a moment, if you're just joining us and maybe you missed part of today's game, we're going to show you some of the top highlights of the game. That's coming up here in just a moment. Let's also get some of your calls before we do that. How about Joseph in Augusta? Joseph, you're next up here on our DawgNation postgame show. Joseph, how about them Dogs? 45-7 is the final. What'd you think about UGA here this afternoon?
Hey, B.A. Hey, thanks again. Thanks for having me on. Hey, man, we did great today. I like how the defense played. I like how the offense played. Like everybody was saying, a little vanilla. I know we had a lot of screen passes today, but I like how Ghana played. And I'm glad Ryan got a chance to come in the game and throw a touchdown. So yeah, we're looking pretty good. I know this is our first game. Got that first game jitters out the way, so we're going to the next game. But like everybody know, and like you're going to take a bunch of us up to Tennessee. So that's what we got to show up and show out. Up there on Rocket Top, showing what we're all about them Dogs.
I love it, Joseph. We are about them Dogs. I'm going to show up and show out in Knoxville. DawgNation Invasion's coming. We're going to have hundreds of Georgia fans getting ready that day. I love hearing so many folks a part of this show that are excited about that. I think that Joseph also brings up a really good point, too, in that this is a very different start to the season than it was a year ago. Last year, Georgia began with a marquee opponent. When you play Clemson, winning is all that matters, and Georgia obviously got the blowout win that day. This year is about, hey, what do you do to tune yourself up for that first big road game? Obviously, in the SEC right now, the road environments, even for a team like Tennessee that Georgia's handled, that becomes a real significant challenge. And how does Georgia prepare itself without tipping off to a team like Tennessee or anybody else after that, what it plans on doing? That's what these first couple of weeks are about. We got folks hanging out here. They want to be a part of the show. We're going to hear from them. Let's also right now, though, get ready to go back and look at how all of this went down today. It's our DawgNation Postgame show live here from the UGA bookstore. Let's go back and look at some of the big key moments from this season opening 45-7 win for Georgia against Marshall. Obviously, a lot of the names are going to come up here that had the big plays. Why don't we go and look at some of those right now? Getting it started with Marshall on offense. And how about the big stand defensively early in this game? Wall of Georgia defenders, including Gabe Harris, who came up with the big stop right there. And obviously, Georgia fans were loving that early. And then on the ensuing drive, they call him Peanut. He's Dwight Phillips, and he would find the end zone. Great shot there by our Cody Chaffins as Dwight Phillips runs right into your living room. And, of course, also on that, you see Juan Gaston. Gaston would go down with injury. We're going to get an update on him at some point. Then Gunnar Stockton through the air. Zachariah Branch, we told you, big part of the Georgia passing attack here today. And, of course, Stockton not just throwing the ball, also keeping it himself. Beautifully executed fake, turning around to thank his blockers. Gunnar Stockton would find the end zone for a score. Georgia wanted more rushing attack. Early going, that was true. 2 rushing touchdowns in the first quarter. More Georgia defense after that. Dawgs getting involved, yielding very little on the ground, including the freshman Elijah Griffin getting involved. Then Stockton would come back. He'd hit Oscar Delp. That would set up Georgia again. Stockton probably underthrew that a bit, maybe had a chance for even more yards, but on special teams, big play comes up here. KJ Bolden got a paw on it. It was a punt block, and the celebration was on after that. You heard Rodrigo Blankenship talking about how much Georgia loves those big plays in the special teams. But what can you say about Gunnar Stockton in his first start at home as a Georgia Bulldog? He would get his second rushing touchdown of the day. Stockton certainly provided Georgia on the ground with a very different look from what it's maybe gotten, certainly in the very recent past, reminiscent of maybe the Stetson Bennett era. Peyton Woodring would add a field goal. And then how about this? Early third quarter, Stockton's going to find Zachariah Branch. Branch may be the fastest player on the team, certainly from a game speed standpoint, and he would go 48 yards for the touchdown. Zachariah Branch showing you why there was so much fanfare on his arrival to UGA from USC. Now more of Gunnar Stockton through the air, this time finding Colby Young. Young would fight his way into scoring situation, and the Dogs were rolling at that point. Georgia fans loved what they saw from Gunnar here today. At this point, he's going to set up. He's going to find London Humphreys back of the end zone, taking time to read the defense. He goes through his progressions. Humphreys was there. London, a hero in week 1 a year ago against Clemson, and he finds the end zone today too. Then it'd be Ryan Puglisi's turn. A lot of Georgia fans curious to see Ryan Puglisi. They got to see him there. And how about in his debut in a Georgia uniform, the former 5-star from Camden County, Elias Williams, got into the end zone too. Beautiful shots from our guy Cody Chaffins, and that is a look back on some of the top moments from this game here today. And, of course, it's good to have you here live from the UGA bookstore on our DawgNation Postgame show. Georgia fans hanging out live with us, including a very good-looking Spike Squad. Get up here right now, too. Appreciate you coming over and being part of our show today. Tell folks your name and tell them what you thought about the Georgia Bulldogs here today.
Hey, my name is Landon Lauderdale. I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia, and it was a great day in Athens. What I loved offensively was that we were playing complementary football, which was kind of a struggle last year. We got kind of one-dimensional. I love how deep the running back room is, and from Gunnar Stockton specifically, I loved the read option attack and how defenses are going to have to game plan for that in the future. And I loved seeing guys like Elias Williams and all these freshmen getting experience in this game against Marshall. And last year we struggled offensively, even against lesser opponents per se. Like Kentucky was one of the worst teams in the SEC last year. Only put up 13 points against them. I think Georgia did a good job getting business done today here in Athens. But
you bring up a point about the running back depth. I think it's interesting for a lot of Georgia fans that, okay, a guy like Chauncey Bowens has climbed the ladder. He's actually playing sooner today than maybe a few months ago some Georgia fans would have predicted. And, of course, that's also maybe true for Dwight Phillips, who, as we said to start our show, and you saw it in the highlights, you're going to see the numbers down there. Phillips, the second leading rusher today behind Gunnar Stockton. The Dwight Phillips, because of his speed, his elusiveness, that's a guy that's probably, I think you have to consider a major part of the Georgia offense now.
Yeah, obviously the offense did a great job, but some pointers I would have would be I would love to see Gunnar Stockton have a little bit quicker of a release. Yeah. I think that he's obviously a great running threat. I think Ryan Puglisi has a little bit better of an arm, which is interesting to see in the fourth quarter. But yeah, and also he kind of struggled to throw the football over the offensive line. But obviously, there's still going to be things to work on, and we have the whole season ahead of us. I'm really optimistic about what this offense brings to the table this year.
I think it's a great point. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of the season, okay?
Thank you. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, indeed. You love seeing Georgia fans hanging out here today. We got a lot more we're going to get to. Also, folks on the on hold here too. In fact, let's go to Jordan Marietta. Jordan, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame show. Jordan, how about them Dogs? What'd you think about the action here today?
I thought the action was really great. Brandon Adams, KJ Bolden had a great game. Gunnar Stockton had a great game. Offense, defense, special teams, they all had a great game today. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, Jordan. We appreciate you being here and appreciate you being a part of the show. And what Jordan is saying there was echoed by our previous caller too, or not caller, our commenter live here on the scene, that it was complimentary football. And we had said this, and Jordan, thank you so much for the call. We had said this, that if you want to get that fast start, if you want to be up 10-0, 14-0, it's not just on the offense. You also have to get those stops. And Georgia got 2 3s and out to begin the game, which gave you the chance of getting those 2 scores. And pretty obviously, I don't care who the opponent was, Georgia came in today with a mission not to give up anything on the ground, and that's definitely what happened. Jordan, that's great stuff. Always love when this guy comes by and sees us here. In fact, he's got a great-looking visor on right now. Awesome stuff. Remind folks of your name and tell them what you thought about the game today.
Hey, I'm Craig, and the previous guy with the Spike Squad, that's my son Landon. So
that's awesome.
He's grown up with DawgNation Daily, and it's been a blast to see.
Man, that's awesome to hear.
I love his analysis, so it's going to be hard to follow. I'm going to start calling you B.A. Stradamus. Okay, because you said you wanted to see Peanut, because you said last week that you were hearing out of camp that he was doing something. He sure did today. The other thing you said was you wanted Georgia to have at least 10 points in the first quarter because of the new clock rules, and boy, did we see that. So that was great. So a couple of BAs.
I got my wish list fulfilled today, right?
Sure did, yeah. So the other thing I loved today was there were no turnovers for Georgia. We played clean on special teams. We played clean on defense. I think we've talked a lot about the offense today. How about that defense? They really shut them down. I'm sure Marshall had a plan, and a lot of teams have come in last year. We didn't really put teams away, so we couldn't get all those guys on the bench into the game. So it's nice to see that. I hope we continue to see that against lesser opponents where we can get all those players all that chance to get some experience like we did during national championship years.
I think that's exactly right. When you build a big lead, you develop that experience. And listen, over the course of a long season, in fact, injuries are even a story today. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. In fact, Jeff Sentell is standing by. We're going to get him to help us with that. But when you can build that depth, unfortunately, especially a longer season now, eventually your depth is just going to get tested.
No, that's right. And, I noticed that Zachariah Branch came up a little bit with his ankle on that punt return and went back to the locker room. So that worried me a little bit. He was running, so it looked good. So hopefully Jeff's got some stuff for us. Love you, Jeff. We saw y'all at the Braves game. Love seeing y'all there as well. So we just love DawgNation. Thank you for what you're doing.
Hey, great people. Thank you for being a part of the show. I really appreciate that. Yeah, good stuff. Absolutely. Before we get Jeff Sentell, who is standing by, let me also go back to phones. A lot of folks have been waiting for a long time. How about our guy Bill Camacho checking in here today? Bill, how about them Dogs? Big win for Georgia, 45-7. What did you think about it?
Well, B.A., let me first just say that Gunnar Stockton didn't just use his arms, but he used his legs. And I say he's going to get the game ball, too. I'm telling you right now. And then in the second half, putting Ryan Puglisi in for reps. What does he does? Throws a touchdown pass. And now as far as the defense is concerned, they did fairly well. Might want to clean up a little stuff, but... And then, most importantly, is the the special teams getting that punt block by Bolden. KJ, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm telling you right now, BA, if we can perform in all three categories, no one's going to stop us. That's all I got to say.
I love it, Bill. Great call, and I agree with you. I love it, Bill. Thank you so much. It's a great call. And, yeah, if you can make a big play on special teams and have the defense bow its back and play stout like it did today with what you got from Georgia, and I think a really interesting crop of new playmakers, I think that Georgia is well on its way. Now, if you're on hold, stay where you are. If you're here, we're going to get you live in a moment, too. I also want to get ready to bring in Jeff Sentell. And, unfortunately, you got to make sure you cover all the bases on a day like this. So let's run through a couple of potentially pretty important injury stories for Georgia, starting with this, that a guy that was not seen in the starting lineup today that would have been expected to be seen is cornerback Dalen Everett. Weird scenario, and it was explained to me last night a bit, talking to some folks, that maybe this was just a case of mistaken identity, that what I think folks originally thought might be a Janelle Aguero injury, maybe the defensive back for Georgia that was injured was actually Dalen Everett. But either way, there had been some chatter that we might not see Everett today. As it turns out, we didn't. And as it turns out, despite the scuttlebutt from earlier this week, apparently Kirby Smart was right, as you would expect him to be, that Aguero really was fine. Seemed like Aguero was playing without problem, but Dalen Everett was not seen. There was also a significant thing that happened during the game where Juan Gaston leaves, goes back to the locker room, and hopefully Jeff Sentell can give us some new information on that. Micah Morris was briefly hobbled. Seems like he was fine. Maybe there are other nicks and bruises here too, but at least to a degree, injury's part of the story here right now. So let's bring in Jeff Sentell. And Jeff, first of all, I want to get your perspective from down the sideline, but can you tell us anything about the injury situation? Juan Gaston, who left the game, Dalen Everett, who was in uniform but did not play, confirming some of the rumors that popped up within the last 24 hours on that. Anything on either of these injury situations?
Hey, good evening, Brandon. We saw Gaston basically limp off. It looks like he's tweaked an ankle. It looks like one of those things that going to be crossing the fingers for there. We want to make sure we don't hear any reports involving the term tightrope with Juan Gaston, because that would be far too premature. Brandon, I think it's a case of one of the overlying themes today, besides like new weapons, was just like depth. You remember like 4 or 5 months ago, everybody was thinking Daniel Calhoun is just going to roll in and be the right guard. And then, hello, here pops in Juan Gaston, deservedly so. Tremendous talent. And then all of a sudden, Georgia loses a guy that was good enough to start as a freshman, first freshman to start for Georgia in game one on the offensive line since the great Andrew Thomas. And then all of a sudden it was like, hello world, here's Daniel Calhoun again, who comes in and really does a good job for Georgia as a depth piece coming in for Gaston. Brandon, you and I we've seen this movie before. He's obviously going to get treatment. It's going to get looked at, but we obviously don't expect to see Juan Gaston next week against Austin Peay at the earliest.
How about Dalen Everett? As I said before, I think there was some belief from people who are closer to this than I am, as it was told to me directly, this may have just been like mistaken identity. And what folks thought was an Aguero injury was actually an Everett injury. I won't pretend to know one way or another on that, but it is interesting after rumors about Aguero this week, it was actually Everett who missed the game. Anything to report on that?
Well, I will say this, Brandon. I saw Everett going off the field after the game. He was in full uniform, Brandon. He was smiling, looked like he was having a good time. If that guy's injured, I think we need to give him a Best Oscar award from Denzel Washington for the performance, because he looked like he was in good spirits. Lots of folks wonder if it's simply just easier to, when you have a marquee player like Dalen Everett, does he need to Does he need to jump in and get a lot of reps against Marshall? And obviously there's a log jam right now with Ellis Robinson, the fourth, getting his first career Georgia start today, along with Daniel Harris. We also saw a lot of DeMello Jones as well today, Brandon. I think one of those things that excites me about this football team is everywhere you look today, there was a situation where, okay, let's see what this guy's got. And he had a lot. He had some juice. He had some sizzle. Everybody from Dwight Phillips to Gabe Harris to guys that kept rolling in. This Georgia team, to me, man, feels very exciting because there's a lot of guys that have a lot of talent in the tank, and now it's kind of their turn. And when their number's called, they're making a lot of plays.
I think that's right. So, Jeff, stay where you are. We got Georgia fans we're going to hear from. If you're on hold, stay where you are. The conversation is going to continue. Georgia wins 45-7. We have to pause for 60 seconds. Want to say hello to a couple of our great sponsors. 60-second break, and then we're going to roll through a bunch of opinions. Jeff's going to hang out with us. We're going to hear more about this Georgia win, what we liked, what needs to be improved on, and where Georgia goes from here after week one. 60-second break, and then we're right back to it here on our DawgNation Postgame Show.
Summer is over and now you're back into the routine and you're not going to relax again until maybe Christmas, right? Wrong, because you can bring relaxation home at Georgia Spa Company's huge Labor Day sale. We've got manufacturer rebates to clear summer inventory that'll save you thousands on hot tubs, cold plunges, saunas, and swim spas. Unfortunately, the manufacturers are not going to allow us to offer these savings for very long, so the Labor Day sale ends Monday, September 1st. Come on into the Labor Day sale at Georgia Spa Company. 7 locations around Georgia. Visit georgiaspacompany.com.
Big games deserve big meals, so let Cercheros make it happen. It's friendly Tex-Mex, served fresh every day. Cercheros Catering can handle the crowd, so it's perfect for your tailgate or watch party. Order online, pickup, or delivery. Cercheros is Georgia grown with over 30 locations throughout the state, bringing you fresh Mex, bowls, burritos, tacos, and more, with over 25 fresh toppings, customizable, just the way you like it. So find a location near you at Cercheros.com. That's Cercheros.com.
This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Cercheros, Royal Caribbean, Georgia Spa Company, and the UGA Bookstore.
Sentell is also hanging out. Going to hear from a lot of Georgia fans on the phones, via Zoom. If you want to click the link, join the chat. Also, folks here live at the UGA Bookstore as well. In fact, let's hear from some of them right now. A great collection of Georgia fans. Tell us your name.
Georgia Zambolin.
Georgia, that's a great name right there. What's your name, sir?
Scott Bolden.
Scott, great. Oh, yeah, Scott, great to see you. Absolutely. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Appreciate you all being here. So, Georgia, tell me what you thought about the game today.
It was a great game. I think a nice start to the season.
I would agree with that.
Lots of excitement from the fans, and it showed through the team.
No, I would certainly agree with that. Scott, how about for you? What did you like about what you saw from Georgia today? What stood out to you from week one?
I love these games against overmatched opponents. It gives me a chance to get my family out here and teach them about Georgia football and something I love. What I saw today, what about the third quarter touchdown from Zachariah Branch? I thought you talked about it, but it's an easy score. I've heard you talk about that. I think to be a great offense, we've got to get easy scores. And I like that. And I thought Dwight Phillips gave that too. The toss sweep, a little cut in the hole, and get north and south. I think anytime we can get quick, easy scores is going to make our offense better and make us more potent down the season.
Scott, I think that's really well said. I appreciate y'all being on the show here today. Georgia, it's great to see you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You off from school on Monday?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, that's a pretty good weekend right there, right? All right, y'all have fun, all right? Great to see you. Go Dogs. And, Jeff, the word that Scott uses there is a word that I've also used a lot, too, that in 2024, not to relitigate the past, but in 2024, the Georgia offense just didn't always have an easy button. And at some point in time on offense, something's got to be easy because if everything's hard, you're just not going to succeed at the level that you want to. Well, guess what? I do think we saw today 2 examples of what can really prove to be an easy button for Georgia. One of those is Zachariah Branch. I think there's even more to explore with him offensively. And the other is Dwight Phillips. A few months ago, I wouldn't have never imagined we're going to be standing here talking about Dwight Phillips being a big part of the Georgia offense. But this is real. This is a thing that was talked about for any of the boosters and the sort of landed gentry who gets a chance to go to these scrimmages. They were all saying the same thing. Phillips was playing. He was playing with the ones. He was involved, touching the football. We went in today's game thinking Phillips was going to be a part of it, and lo and behold, he got the season's first touchdown, and he and Branch both, to use the same thing our commenter just said, I think they have a chance to be, when Georgia needs something easy, these very fast, quick, elusive players, I think they have the potential to provide that.
Brandon, I don't know if DawgNation completely knows the bio on Dwight Phillips Jr. Of course, everybody calls him Peanut. When anybody speaks of Peanut on the Georgia football team, they're effusive in their praise. They're happy. But this is a guy, I think, Brandon, that can be somewhere between maybe a Trevor Etienne, a Travis Etienne, or maybe even a James Cook. I think that's the range of his skill set. Why do I say that? Brendan, he's one of the 10 fastest guys in college football based on his track times when he was in high school, 10.15, 10.20. But he always is an Olympian. His dad is a world champion, but he always classified himself as a football player. Brandon, I want to go back to your point about the easy button. To me, Brandon, the offense today looked like it was exciting. It was attacking. The ball got out fast. Georgia tried to gash the defense. I think there's a lot more sizzle, despite it being a lot more fun to watch. When you add a Zachariah Branch, when you add a Dwight Phillips, these are home run hitters to a Georgia offense. And then you bring in Gunnar Stockton's legs. There's a lot of ways here that they're going to put a lot of pressure on defenses. And again, what Georgia did today, rolling in and out depth. Brendan, I don't know if you noticed that I pay attention to this stuff a lot. Ethan Barbour is in the first series of the game. They're playing the number 2 offensive line a lot in this game. It feels like a different Georgia, Brandon. It feels like you've opened up a brand new present and you've got a new toy to play with. Georgia, to me, at times look bigger, stronger, longer, faster, more depth. It's kind of funny the difference 1 year makes, and about 7 or 8 players in key positions. It kind of changes the whole perception of this football team right now.
Barbour also getting some run, at least for one play, as a traditional fullback, too. That was also interesting to see. Let's get David in North Carolina. David, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show live here from the UGA bookstore. David, what'd you think about the Dogs here today?
Hey, how you doing, Brandon? Thank you for having me on the show, first of all. Go Dogs. Shout out to Atlanta. It felt good to see this team come and show what a hungry team looked like. You know, I know Kirby spoke about that earlier this week leading up to this moment. And it really just felt good to see a hungry team. And after seeing the performance, you know, offense, O-line played well, defense played well. I know they left a lot on the field, and they're going to be hungrier leaving the field, even with the results. So I'm just excited to see what they do going forward, how Kirby and that coaching staff coaches them up to be better. And I'm just excited about the season. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed, David. I appreciate the phone call, and I love the fact that you zeroed in on what you thought looked like a hungry team today. You know, last week, that's what Kirby Smart said he would like for the identity of this team to be. He said he feels like it is a hungry team, and he wanted them to show how hungry it was. And if I had my wish, speaking as a Georgia fan to other Georgia fans, that is what you want from Georgia. They won the SEC a year ago. They made the college football playoff. They beat Texas twice. Those are significant accomplishments. And yet there's also a hunger to do even more in 2025. And maybe that appetite that Georgia has is for those sorts of things. Jeff, I love David's call because he is zeroing in on something that Kirby Smart's talked about, that hope that this will be as hungry a team as Kirby says he wants it to be. The results here through one game, admittedly against an overmatched opponent, certainly look promising, do they not?
It looks very promising, Brandon. I mean, everybody can say that about Marshall and how they're a rebuilt team and they don't have schemes, they don't have chemistry together or whatever. Brandon, myself and another sideline observer were looking at that game. It's fourth quarter. Georgia's up, I think, 45 points. And this is before they got the touchdown. And Georgia still had, I believe, Chris Cole and Justin Williams in the football game. These are 2 guys that will play in the NFL for a long time. And that's the type of depth Georgia has when they've got future NFL linebackers, not starters, but still in the game against Marshall. There was a stifling defensive performance. I think there was one point in the game where Marshall didn't have a third down conversion and only like 40 total yards. I mean, I don't know, other than people that just want to have something to complain about. Yes, there were some issues in pass pro. Yes, Georgia got banged up a little bit, but they showed depth otherwise. And, there's a lot to like about this Georgia football team, especially after some of these slow starts of the past. This looks like a very fresh and vibrant football team. I got to double down on this one, Brandon. Gabe Harris, you've heard about the rumblings about him looking like a grown man in kind of a money year. All fall camp, and then he starts out the first series with really a haymaker, a viral play, and then afterward, Brandon, in the post-game locker room, in the victorious Georgia post-game locker room, we got to hang out and talk to Christian Miller. You want to talk about a happy dude? He was over the moon happy about KJ Bolden's block punt, about Zachariah Branch, about Dwight Phillips. And I asked him kind of point blank, I said, Christian, when this Georgia defense plays as well as it can, what do you think that looks like? And he used the word dominant. He said he knows it's there, and you guys will see his full answer on YouTube, on the DawgNation YouTube channel. Christian was very much in a happy guy today. He knows this is his last ride at Georgia, his last run at Georgia, and he was very happy to celebrate the Georgia Bulldog victory tonight.
We'll keep the conversation going. Our guy Richard's hanging out here live at the UGA bookstore. Richard, big day for Georgia, 45-7. A lot of guys played. Georgia did some things well. Probably still have some things to work on, and we'll, of course, talk about that throughout the week. But first of all, how about them Dogs? What do you think about the game overall?
How about them Dogs? If you don't mind, I'd like to give a little shout-out first to Brandon Miller in Alabama, and Joe Dog Simpson in Atlanta, Georgia, and James Floyd from Augusta. And also, I'd like to give a shout-out to someone who lives rent-free in my brain, all the time. His name's G. Bama Boy, and I love that guy. I know he's going to be hanging up that jersey soon, just like he hung up all those Dallas jerseys and all those other epic teams that he pulled for. But let's move on to the team. So, anyways, I'm really impressed by all the young players, and I know a lot of that's already been said, and I'm just going to say a couple that hadn't been mentioned, and Jaden Riddell for one.
Yes.
Getting in there, getting his hands dirty, blocking. He wasn't perfect. He missed a couple of blocks, but he also made a couple of blocks that were pretty key. And then also Ellis Robinson getting in there and shutting down his side when he was on the field, taking the most of his opportunity, and I think he even got one tackle, if not a half tackle, in the game. And the most impressive thing I saw were the tackles for loss, and that came from Chris Cole and Gabe Harris.
And Chris Cole was all over the place today.
It was just good tackling skills and speed combined, and you saw it from that three. I think they had 5 tackles for loss together. Those three.
You see some of the numbers right there on the screen. So a big day for a lot of Georgia defenders, and I appreciate that shout-out to them.
Yes, sir. I always love to give those type of shout-outs.
Richard, thanks for being a part of the program. Really good stuff.
Take care, man.
Absolutely. And by the way, while we're handing out accolades, let's also remind you, maybe no surprise here, our Serve Pro player of the game goes to Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton, who had 48-yard touchdown pass to Zachariah Branch, a touchdown pass to London Humphreys, also 2 rushing scores as well. Gunnar Stockton gets the game ball courtesy of our friends from ServPro. Had a chance to run to our guy Dave from ServPro just a little bit earlier. Here's one of the things I love about all the sponsors around DawgNation. They're hanging out. They're going to Georgia games. They're Georgia fans in many cases just like you. We love our folks from ServPro. We're happy to have them bringing the game ball. Happy to be able to give it to Gunnar Stockton on the occasion of his first start here in a Georgia uniform at Sanford Stadium. Obviously, his first start overall coming in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame last week. So, Jeff Sentell, I would say a very deserving game ball for Gunnar Stockton. It was, to be honest, not the most efficient day passing. He was only slightly above 6 yards per attempt the first half. You tack on the Branch throw in the third quarter. Now he's up over 7 for the day. You'd like to see him, if he wants to be among the best in the SEC, best nationally, you'd like to see him at or near 9 yards per attempt before the year is done. But certainly when you add the extra dimension on the ground, Gunnar did a lot to help Georgia win today. And as we've said now repeatedly during the show, he also, I think, gives opposing defenses a lot to think about too, right?
A lot to think about, Brandon. I'd love to see you after a game when you look at the passing yards and you see maybe a Gunnar Stockton with 10 yards per attempt. That sort of thing would get you chortling, wouldn't it, Brandon? I will say this. One of the things Nate Frazier said, Brandon, and I want you to listen very closely. I'm going to quote Nate Frazier. he rattled off several ways in which Gunnar Stockton scares defenses. When's the last time we've heard a Georgia offensive player say that about their quarterback? He also mentioned that about Zachariah Branch, how he scares defenses, Brandon. I thought it was what you expected to see out of Gunnar. Tough, leads his team. What I was really impressed with is he really made his decisions fast, and the operation time was great. That's a good picture there of Monroe Freeling right there with his energy on his face right there. But,
Yes, it
Gunner's
is.
Gunner's a guy that he's always been that way, Brandon. He's a guy that's going to take off and run when he sees it. And he's like, man, that to me, that's like you're leaving a guy open when coverage takes away one side of the field and the other side of the field is green grass. That's the way he's wired. He's always going to make that play. That he was really like a daredevil or like a gyro top when he scored one of those touchdowns, Brandon. And then also, did you see that touchdown where he turns around in the end zone and he's pointing to people online and social media?
I loved
pointing
it.
at the
I
Marshall
loved
player.
it.
He was actually pointing
No,
at
no, no,
London
no.
Humphreys, but Landon Humphreys. But for you, you're going to be pointing at that Marshall defense, correct?
Well, no, listen, I love the fire. We talk about fire, passion, and energy. Certainly Gunnar Stockton showed that right there. Okay, Jeff, if you can hang on, I'm going to ask you to. Let's get a couple of calls here real quick. Our guy Isha's in North Carolina. Isha, glad to have you here, DawgNation Postgame Show. How about them Dogs, 45-7? What did you see here this evening?
Well, hello, BA. I know it's been a while. I've been off and on the show. Right now, I'm in North Carolina with some family. I had to get on the road and get to visiting. So I think my wife is watching. Hello, baby. But yeah, I mean, everybody was excited to watch the game, to see everything, all this practicing, and see what we were going to do. And I think we did a fairly good job against a lesser opponent. We did everything we was expected to do. I just want us to keep improving on what we're doing and take this next game and get better as we go. And then next time we have I think a better output. I like we got other guys in the game. I didn't like the defense letting them go, but hey, it is what it is. I don't think the first string was in the game. I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
But it's wonderful to get back into the groove of the show, and it's wonderful to see everybody on here and get to talk to everybody again.
Isha, I appreciate that. Thanks so much for the call. And you're right. By the time Marshall mounted scoring drive, Georgia playing a lot of young guys, a lot of backups. There was also the worst push-off I've ever seen, completely disregarded by the officials. And for most fans, or at least a lot of fans, hey, no big deal. It's late in the game. But if you had Georgia minus the 39.5, of course, Georgia historically doesn't cover those spreads. If you had Georgia minus the points today, you're living and dying there at the end because it's a clear no call, a horrible call on what should have been called, setting up Marshall for a score that took the cover opportunity away for UGA, and obviously it prevented Georgia from getting the shutout, which, Jeff, goes back to what we say all the time. High variance in the second half of one of these games when certainly Georgia's got backups in. For all I know, Marshall's maybe playing some too. It's like a pinball machine, luck box, things just bouncing around. Plinko on Price is Right every which way, but a pretty obvious bad call hurt Georgia a chance to get the shutout and get the cover. A lot of people had already gone back to tailgate by then, but there were plenty of people who were biting fingernails over that and clearly got jobbed by the officials in that moment late in the game, preventing both the shutout and the cover, right?
Brandon, I thought that was not cool to see that because I thought that was obvious pass interference. And DeMello Jones is a much better corner than that. He's really looked like he's already a solid SEC corner. He also got some first quarter clock tick for the Dogs. And one of those things, Brandon, what do they call it? They call it sports entertainment at its finest right there when everybody looks at the money line and everybody looks at that point spread and they see Marshall driving down that field and everything else. But Brandon, I'm going to tell you, this is a broken record, man. How many times have we looked at great Georgia football teams and they have goose eggs through three quarters? And all of a sudden Kirby's like, let's get the young kids in. Let's get some tape on them. Let's get something to coach them about. And all of a sudden somebody sneaks in with about 10 points or 13 points and it turns something like 45-0.
Well, the all-time worst
14.
The all-time worst example is Florida in 2017. You know, an overmatched opponent today, Marshall, an overmatched opponent then in Florida. Georgia had a chance to shut them out. They haven't been shut out since 1987. Georgia had a chance to to stop their streak, their record, I guess it might be. And in that particular case, they let the overmatched opponent get a little breathing room at the end, just like it did for Marshall today. But the one that'll sting forever is the fact that Florida found the end zone near the end in 2017, because it would have been great to have that streak of shutouts stopped at the hand of the Georgia Bulldogs. That would have certainly been a great thing to do.
I mean, anytime you can put something in the nose of a Florida fan, isn't that a great day for you, Brandon? Exactly.
There are a lot of things that Florida fans put in their nose sometimes, I think. But nonetheless,
right.
Let's get ready to let's get ready to go back to the phones here.
Booger
How
reference.
about
It's
Curtis
good.
in
It's a good
Virginia?
win.
Curtis in Virginia, you're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show. We're live here at the UGA Bookstore. How about them Dogs? What do you think about Georgia here today?
BA, if I could take a moment, I'd like to address the Georgia sports fan. You got to be excited. It's Marshall. We took care of business, but I wrote it in a couple of the daily DawgNation daily chats that having a quarterback that's willing to run the football on the zone read and take a hit, it completely changes the offense. And seeing Gunner out there getting those positive yards, taking what could have been a loss of 2, loss of 3, and making it a positive of 4, like that is big for the offense. I was extremely pleased. Granted, we want to see it against, more elite competition, more equitable competition. But I came away extremely excited. A lot of young players got to play today, which excites me. The young players that were in the first and second string lineups showed some promise. This college football field is wide open. And I like our chances. I really like our chances. Gunner's got a very he's got a control that I can just appreciate. We didn't take a lot of shots downfield. I think that may have been by design. We didn't want to put too much on tape. Tennessee looked good today defensively, to a degree defensively against Syracuse. So that's going to be a tough game in Knoxville. But again, I like our chances. I like this squad. The young players really showed me some things. And mark my words, within these next 3 years, we're going to get at least one more.
Curtis, I love the phone call. I appreciate it. Thanks for weighing in today. Really strong opinions from you. And, Jeff, I think that Curtis brings up an interesting point about Gunner Stockton in that he's not the fastest guy. For instance, we'll compare him to Stetson Bennett in a foot race, and maybe you'll tell me different. In a foot race, I think that Bennett probably beat Stockton. But what Stockton is a very willing runner. And his willingness and oftentimes fearlessness when it comes to running the ball creates positive yards. And as the old saying goes, you don't go broke taking a profit. And when Georgia can turn nothing into some sort of positive gain because Stockton just finds a way to get something, I'm telling you right now, that changes Tennessee's preparation. And yeah, I know Georgia's playing, kind of a nobody opponent in week 1. The same thing's true next week. But Georgia's done Clemson, Oregon, Clemson before that, a lot of big week 1 games. This year, Georgia has, I'm going to call it the luxury of being able to step into its biggest games, to use these 2 weeks to get ready and to decide, what do we want to show our opponents and what do we not want to show them? And I thought that Georgia today did a good job of dangling a few things out there of, hey, maybe we'll use fullback. Maybe we'll use 2 tight end set. Maybe we'll go 22 personnel. Maybe we'll run quarterback. Think about that on zone read. Maybe we'll, send 1,000 guys in pre-snap motion and, use eye candy and run off of that. I thought that Georgia did a really good job of giving opposing defenses stuff to consider. And when it comes to what we think are extra wrinkles for the downfield passing game, there's very little today from Noah Thomas. We think he's a much bigger part of this offense. Not a ton for Colby Young, although he did have at least one a nice catch. We think there are other things that Georgia can show, which is, let's face it, the luxury you have when you do start the season off with these tune-up games, the likes of which that Georgia's playing here these first couple of weeks, Jeff.
Brandon, man, first of all, I like that guy on that last call who said he thinks Georgia gets at least one more out of the next 3 years. Man, after all the football I've seen recently this week, I think they might get 2 or 3 out of the next 5 years. From what I saw last night in Nashville. But, I'm going to go through a couple of things you said right there, Brandon. I think both Gunner and Stetson are in a 40. They're probably high 4.6s on the laser. I think the difference is, and I like the word you use there, decisive, but I want to add a little bit more hot sauce to that. I think Gunner is a north-south runner. He's a deliberate runner. He's a guy that's going to be like, what we talk, listen to running back coach talk a lot about. You're going to get one cut and go and get upfield. That's really what Gunner Stockton has been all about. He's got toughness. He doesn't mind doing that. But the other thing, Brandon, is you saw Georgia working a lot out of pistol today, especially in certain series. And I think that gives people a lot more to look at. And I mean, Brandon, if we talked about this game beforehand and really had a serious discussion about it, if for Georgia to look good, for Georgia to put up a lot of points, we would have expected some shot plays to Colby Young or Noah Thomas, everything like that. But what Georgia did is they showed a little bit of something more. They showed Zachariah Branch today. How interesting was it, Brandon, watching Zachariah Branch return punts, man? How thrilling your punt return is going to be this year for Georgia after a lot of basically monotone, kind of vanilla, kind of boring moments, just catching the punt the last few years. You see a big day from Zachariah Branch. You see a big day from Dwight Phillips. That's just going to give everybody, and Gunner's out of the box now as well, going to give a lot more defensive coordinators a lot more to think about. It is a multi-layered Georgia offense when they can put up this amount of points and not have to shoot downfield. Because really, one of the things we've come to believe about Gunner is he's really good on play action and he's really good on shot plays downfield. But Georgia didn't really go to the well today on any of that.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up. We'll get a final thought from Jeff Sentell in a moment. We're going to hear from Georgia coach Kirby Smart, his first thoughts on the win today against Marshall. We have got to talk about what goes down with both Alabama in I thought, shocking upset loss to Florida State, Texas disappointing in Arch Manning's debut, at least for the full season, for the Longhorns against Ohio State. All of that is still to come. Let's also go back to the phones here. It is Jake in Germany. Jake joins us here live on the DawgNation Postgame show, checking in from, is it Deutschland? Is that how you say it? Deutschland? Jake joining us here this evening. Thank you, Jake, for being a part of our DawgNation Postgame show. I appreciate your time talking about these dogs here today.
Of course, BA. Yeah. I was just really happy with the fast start. I think that was something that was kind of like a problem last year. We never really came out the gate swinging. I think last year versus UMass is a good example of that. I'm pretty sure we were tied at halftime, if I remember, or within a few points. So I was happy to see us, come out the gates running. I was impressed with Zachariah Branch and a lot of the new guys from the portal. And then I think most importantly, it looked like they were having they were having fun playing football out there. It looked like they were enjoying themselves, especially Gunner. His rushing touchdown, had a big smile on his face. Yeah.
Jake, it's a great phone call, and I appreciate you being a part of the show, and I agree with everything you said. Thank you so much for reaching out to us here this evening.
Of course, man. Thanks.
Good stuff from Jake in Germany there. Absolutely. Good stuff from Jake in Germany. And, Jeff, one of the things that Jake is echoing is something that I have certainly, I think, been pretty clear about is that whatever happens second and third and fourth quarter, sometimes games like this, that all gets a little sloppy because Georgia was rotating pretty heavily almost right away. So I don't read as much from the full game as I read from the first quarter. And this is not just because we had talked about it. It was, I thought, the most important thing to recognize. Could Georgia get off to the fast start? Because as Jake said, not last year against UMass, previous year against UT Martin and Ball State and UAB, Georgia was getting off to slower starts. And this wasn't just a cosmetic issue. This wasn't just a, nitpicking an otherwise, dominant win. That stuff also showed up in Georgia put itself in harm's way against Auburn in 2023, South Carolina in 2023. They lost the game to Alabama last year because of this. Could have lost to Tech last year because of this. Slow starts hurt Georgia, sometimes even costed a game or darn near costed a game a couple of times. So I agree with Jake. I don't think there's anything more significant to take from this game, more so the fact that Georgia got off to a much faster start today, a 14-0 lead at the conclusion of the first quarter, because these days that's about all you're going to do. Clock rules have limited possessions now. The fact that Georgia was up 14-0 after 15 minutes, I took that as the best sign of the day overall.
I'm going to tell you one thing, Brennan. First of all, shout out to Jake from Germany, man. It's 2:30 over there where he's at, man. Something like 3 a.m. So, like, props to him for watching the Dogs and watching the DawgNation postgame show with Brandon Adams at 2:30 in the morning over there in Germany. I thought the last two callers had great points. And this is the part I want to pull out of Jake's point. Really good point, because, Brandon, you and I have been around a lot of these games where let's just call it what it is. A lot of times early starts, lack of early starts. Georgia's laid a lot of eggs. I can think of the UMass game. I can think of Kent State. I can think of some UAB games. I can think of UMass. I can think Tennessee Tech, UT Martin, Kent State. The list goes on and on. You gotta wrap your brain around this. New quarterback, mostly rebuilt offensive line, lots of new transfer portal guys. And for most of the first quarter, when Georgia was clicking, they were attacking, they were looking decisive. I think Georgia looked very good in terms of the ball's getting out quick. They're getting their reads quick, and they're really trying to gash the defense. And there's a lot of reasons today, Brennan, where it could have looked like not as cool, not as in sync. It could have looked like a lot more convoluted than it did. And I think, yeah, it's Marshall. We get it. But the point we're trying to make here, and I'm glad Jake from Germany pointed that out, is that, yeah, but Georgia could have done that against a lot of those other teams too, when they don't play a team that, amps up the hype meter a little bit. So, it's kind of funny, Brendan. You saw a lot of new things in the stadium today. You saw the pyrotechnics. You saw more in-game entertainment. It looked like the Dogs football team also had something new for DawgNation today as well.
I think that's interesting. Jeff, how about a final thought from you before we say goodbye to you and get ready to hear from Kirby Smart? Final thought from you on everything that goes down today?
It's a good-looking team, Brandon. I think Gunner does add a lot. I think Gunner's going to be hard for Georgia to defend. And eventually those deep shots to Colby Young and Noah Thomas are going to be there, especially in big spots when people start dedicating resources to maybe stop what Gunner can bring. I think it's an exciting team. It's only going to get better. And, we've thought this way for a while. We've listened with our ear to the ground privately that this Georgia team is going to have some juice. It's going to have a lot of talent. And I think we're in for a heck of a season.
Great stuff, Jeff Sentell. Can't wait to talk to you throughout the week. Thanks so much for being here today on our DawgNation postgame call-in show live from the UGA bookstore. I appreciate your time.
See you, man. Take it easy. Have a good night.
So great stuff. Yeah, you too, Jeff. Great stuff there from Jeff Sentell. So before we wrap up, two of the biggest games on the Georgia schedule, the most significant opponents, disastrous, and I mean disastrous days today. We'll talk about what we learned, but first, what did Kirby Smart think of his team, their performance against Marshall? His first thoughts moments ago. This is the Georgia coach, Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I was very proud of our guys today. I thought we started fast, offensively, defensively. Start of the second half was really important to me to get things going and start the way we wanted to in the second half. Special teams, I thought we were fast, played a lot of players on special teams. It's a weapon for us, blocking the punt, some of the punt returns. We're able to do some good things. So we'll take this, we'll go watch it, and we'll try to continue to improve as a team.
Coach, you talked all season about running the football effectively and stopping the run. How did you guys feel like you performed your first best of it?
I thought we did okay. I thought there were a couple times we had some breakdowns up front defensively where a run 7-8 yard pops out, especially later. Start subbing some guys in. They didn't play to our standard. Offensively, there'll be things we could have done better, but there were things we did well. Some runs we worked really hard on in the offseason were big for us. We got to continue to improve in that area. And be more consistent and take the lost yardage plays out of it. Those were the drive killers when we had negative runs or lost yardage plays. Don't know much. We took him to do an MRI. It looks like an ankle. We don't know if it's a high ankle or not. In terms of that, we're getting him checked out right now.
What's going on with Dalen Everett? I saw he was suited up.
Yeah, he's injured.
What can you say about Gunner Stockton's performance? He did through the air, did with his feet. Just what can you say about him?
Proud of Gunner. He's a great leader, great competitor. Just does it the right way. Got us out of some negative plays. Had 2 or 3 times that we could have been sacked, that he escaped. He took care of the ball well. He made good decisions. He made good reads on his pulls. Continues to distribute the ball and did a nice job.
Okay, so you hear Kirby Smart giving you an update on 2 of the Georgia injuries we talked about earlier. Juan Gaston injured during the game, and Kirby Smart, frankly, what can be sometimes a dreaded phrase, we don't know yet if it's the high ankle. That's obviously becoming more of a seemingly common football injury now, and I won't speculate on anything beyond the medical treatment of that because it's still too early to know that, but all football fans, no matter who you cheer for, you know how oftentimes the ankle situations can linger and create some sense of uncertainty. And for a guy that has shown so much promise during fall camp, of course, if you're a Georgia fan, you hope that's not true. Kirby clearly in the early stages here, not able to reveal much. Kirby also asked directly about Dalen Everett. Kirby says he's injured, and in that particular clip, now if you want to go to the DawgNation YouTube page, and you should, to watch the entire post-game press conference, my hope is there's a follow-up coming on can you tell us more about the actual injury that Everett's dealing with. But pretty terse, to the point, obviously tying back into what we'd said before, as was told to me by someone much closer to all of this than I am, a few people kind of echoing this, that maybe this was just what people thought was an Aguero injury may have actually been an Everett injury, and it was just a case of I even said we did a topic on this on DawgNation Daily that sometimes eyewitness reports are unreliable. And the initial eyewitness report that suggested that maybe Aguero was hurt, maybe that was actually Everett who was in that situation. But earlier this week, Kirby, in very clear, matter-of-fact fashion, no, Janelle Aguero is not injured. He is fine. Everett, though, Kirby says he is injured. He was dressed. He did not play. This is obviously a preseason all-SEC level cornerback, so the degree of severity on this is clearly going to be worth paying attention to. Very interesting from Smart. Hopefully there are more details to come, but for now, certainly seems like, and there had been, look, the rumor mill is always active, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. We try to be careful with what we run with, but there had clearly been some increasing chatter that maybe Everett might not play today. And as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. And Smart, in sort of as terse as he could be there, saying the reason he didn't play is because he's injured. And that's at least all we got from Kirby on that particular answer. You can go to the DawgNation YouTube page and watch the full Kirby Smart press conference. We'll also get a chance to hear from Georgia quarterback Gunner Stockton before we wrap up here today. But prior to that, let's get ready to go cruising around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. And I'm going to keep it to just 2 games here for a moment. Big debut for Arch Manning today. The world was watching, and the world didn't see much. Manning did not play a good game at Ohio State. And frankly, it's the defending national champions in their own stadium. In most cases, that would be a normal thing to expect. As I've said, I don't know that Texas has a lot to apologize for losing at Ohio State. It's a very tough week 1 game. It is very rare to see a preseason number 1 and number 2 or number 3, whichever poll you care about. It's very rare to see teams like that matched up in week 1. We said the loser of this game was still very much in the championship chase. But what you can't do, and I'm speaking directly to the media here, you can't tell me that Arch Manning's already better than Tim Tebow, that Texas is the new Alabama, and have them go on the road and barely score. And they tacked on a late, almost not quite garbage time, but almost garbage time touchdown. Otherwise, they're toting a goose egg back to Austin with them. You can't have all that preseason hype by the media here and watch Texas go in there and essentially flop against Ohio State. I don't really blame Texas for it. I think that Texas is probably still fine. Fact of the matter is, it's still an incredibly tough game for Georgia in November. I think that Texas could still win the national championship. My opinion of Texas doesn't change that much on the basis of this result. But boy, the media that hyped him up so much, they've got a reckoning. I'll not hold my breath for the apology, but nonetheless, if there was any ability to be introspective whatsoever, the national media that created this silly narrative around Texas and how dominant they were prior to any real wins of significance, maybe going back and rethinking some of that would be a pretty good idea. And yet, I don't know, and I would say it's probably not even the most significant result of the day. Florida State handled Alabama from pillar to post. And I don't mind telling you, there are moments that pop up that make me feel like I don't really know anything. And this is one of those games that just leaves me thinking, well, maybe this sport that I've dedicated my life to watching, maybe I just don't know anything, because there is not one part of me that saw this coming. Not one part of me that thought that Florida State would manhandle Alabama. Now, yes, one of the things to be mindful of is that Alabama has its own ankle injuries. It's kind of gotten banged up. Tim Keenum, the defensive lineman, and others. This is a Bama team that's not fully healthy. That's not an excuse, though, for getting whipped by a team you were 2-touchdown favorite over. The Alabama defense did not squash a grape today. They were just shoved all over the yard. And Tommy Castellanos, after predicting he would do this, went out and backed up every word he ever said. He called his own shot. He fulfilled the prophecy. He handled Alabama just like he said he would. I was aghast at this result, blown away by the outcome here today. We'll make that cruise around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. We'll remind you there are so many great things for you to enjoy with Royal Caribbean right now, including if you love the 3 and the 4 night sailings, long weekend, shorter trips, a little easier to get away sometimes, especially if you've got busy families. Well, a great trip on Utopia of the Seas for a 3 or 4 night sailing is a great way to do that. You can give Jessica Slater a call, 770-718-9147. That's 770-718-9147. You can also email her, jslater@dreamvacations.com. Enjoy a Royal Caribbean cruise vacation. You've got 2 off weeks coming up. Or the better thing to do is think about holiday travel. Think about early 2026. Oftentimes with Royal Caribbean, the best opportunity for savings and the best opportunity for selection is going to happen when you're thinking several months ahead. Sometimes I do travel last minute. I think it'd be wise, though, to already be thinking about travel next summer, next spring, early 2026. It's a great time to be thinking about all of that. Jessica Slater can help you out with anything related to a wonderful Royal Caribbean cruise vacation. All right, before we wrap up, we promised you it was a, I think, pretty impressive debut, all things considered, for Georgia quarterback Gunner Stockton. What did he think about his performance? This is some of what Gunner had to say after today's game.
Yeah. The thought process in the middle of the play. Are you looking to run, or are you just that's an option?
I think you have to be able to be willing to run when it presents itself, and I don't think anybody's just sitting there waiting to run. You just got to be able to feel it and know the right situation.
How well
Generally
do you feel like
speaking,
you did as far as deciding when to run? How do you feel like you did today as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think there's a couple plays that broke down and try to get vertical and get some extra yards and just get us in a good play and not get negative yards.
Is it part of the game plan for you to run more than pass?
I don't think so. It just kind of, like I said, the pass plays, it naturally presented itself, and just trying to take what they give me.
Specifically talk about the touchdown at the far end of the field where you had the great fake and they all went with the running back and then you cut it up in the inside. Could you just take us through that play?
Yeah, it was short yardage, and the end crashed, and just tried to run. I don't know if they messed up a little bit, but I was glad I got in the end zone.
Who are you pointing at on that play?
London Humphreys was behind me, and I was just excited.
What do you feel like the best play you made as a quarterback today was?
I don't know, best play. When we scored before the half and kicked the field goal, that was big, just getting points out of that situation. So that was big.
Gunner, you've had an encore.
All right, so good stuff there from Gunner Stockton. Once again, DawgNation YouTube page, great place to go to see everything he had to say. I thought that Stockton was fantastic with his legs today. I thought he was pretty good through the air. I thought, for instance, the completion to Oscar Delp, thought maybe a little bit better placement on that. That's an even bigger gain. Yards per attempt, the overall efficiency, you'd maybe like that to be a bit higher, but clearly a pretty good building block to add on to as Georgia goes through this season. A very worthy game ball, courtesy of our friends at ServPro, that we gave you a little bit earlier. Okay, we're going to get ready to put a finishing touch on all this. We're going to hear from Kaylee Manziel for just 1 second. We're also going to give you a chance, if you're just joining us, let's go back and relive some of the top moments from this game. Let's revisit some of the early highlights, including Georgia on defense to begin the game, and Georgia showing some teeth early defensively as well, including Big Gabe Harris driving a ball carrier back. You love to see that. Tackle behind the line of scrimmage, setting the tone for what would be the entire day. We think Harris, now wearing number 0, going to be a big part of this show for Georgia here this year. Speaking of putting on a show, Dwight Phillips, the running back, certainly did that. The first touchdown of the 2025 season belongs to the man they call Peanut. We think there's plenty more on the way as it relates to Dwight Phillips there on that. And, of course, you also see Juan Gaston there. Kirby Smart gave you the injury update on Gaston. Still unsure about that right now. We'll obviously keep our eyes on that. Debut as well today for Zachariah Branch. Branch clearly going to give Georgia a lot in the passing game, including keeping that drive alive, which creates the opportunity for Gunnar Stockton. We know he can run. And he showed us on the second drive of the day for UGA, a rushing touchdown. Stockton turning around and congratulating his blockers. And at this point in time, the fast start that we said we wanted to see Georgia get off to, they were off and running. 14-0 first quarter lead. Then Georgia defensively, it's time for the freshmen to get involved. How about Elijah Griffin wrapping up, bringing down? Griffin, bright future at Georgia, early glimpse of that right there. KJ Bolden also in on that too. Now, Gunnar Stockton through the air, going to connect with Oscar Delp, the tight end. Delp, Stockton, they're former roommates with each other. They know each other well. We think they could be quite a connection here this year. Speaking of KJ Bolden, also getting involved on special teams. There is nothing that Kirby Smart likes more than a big play on special teams. Georgia got one via the block punt. We heard Rodrigo Blankenship bragging on that a little earlier. You know, the former specialist likes plays like that in the third phase of the game, and that is clearly what Georgia was able to provide. More Gunnar Stockton, a day that he was all over everywhere. In this particular case, he's going to run for his second score of the day. And at this point in time, it was obvious that they would belong to the Bulldogs and that the Stockton era would be upon us. Georgia offensive linemen obviously love everything they see there. Peyton Woodring would also get a chance to be a part of the scoring. Close games later this season, you're going to want a dynamite kicker, and certainly that is what Woodring is. Now, early third quarter, Georgia getting going here. Zachariah Branch would catch the ball, make something happen, and go 48 yards for a touchdown. The recent transfer from USC, one of the most exciting players in this Georgia roster, and perhaps a bedrock foundation for the offensive success that Georgia hopes to have in 2025. Gunnar would not be done. He's going to find Colby Young. Young going to fight his way into scoring territory, and that would set up Gunnar Stockton for the fourth touchdown accounted for by him in this game. Two of those were on the ground. One of those through the air to Zachariah Branch. Then Stockton would survey the situation, and in the back of the end zone, he'd find another former transfer, London Humphreys. Humphreys was huge week 1 a year ago against Clemson, and he also got himself into the scorebook here on this particular Saturday too. Second throwing score of the day for Stockton, London Humphreys getting involved. Then Ryan Puglisi. That's a player that Georgia fans are curious about. They know he needs his experience. Today he got it. And in his Georgia debut, the former 5-star tight end from Camden County, Elias Williams, he also got a touchdown as well. Georgia wins 45-7. Great shots there by our guy Cody Chaffins, and a great look at a dominant Georgia win. Before we say goodbye, let's bring on Kaylee Manziel for a moment. She's yawning, which means she's ready to go home. I'm gonna make her work for one more second here. Kaylee, a lot of fun here today. I know you hung out with Gunnar Stockton in the locker room there a moment ago. We had a chance to hear a bit from him. So maybe a thought about that, but also an overall thought for the game today.
Yeah, I mean, you ask Gunnar questions about himself, you're not going to get very much. You ask him about his teammates. I feel like that's where we see the truest version of Gunnar. Spoke a lot about the connection within the offense. That was pretty much all we got from him, but you could tell that he was excited to win this game one, and he said it definitely feels different coming into this game as the known starter and not just kind of waiting around to see if you're going to play. So it was a different feel for him, and I thought that he played pretty well tonight.
How about overall, what did you appreciate about today's game? What stood out in your mind?
I think there was two winners for tonight for me, or I'll even go three. I'll go one on defense too, but for the offense, Dwight Phillips
Big time.
Jr.
Big time.
We all came into this season thinking that Josh McCray was going to be the running back too, and of course he missed a lot of camp due to an illness, but man, Dwight Phillips Jr. went from not almost missing out on the bus to Florida last year to now being the first person to score the touchdown of the season, and wow, there's a lot to be excited for when it comes to him. And then Zachariah Branch, oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, legend.
So it's funny you're saying this because this is exactly what we started the show by saying, is that I thought dynamic playmakers, the emergence of Phillips, who's been on the roster, Branch, who's here now. To me, you and I are very similar on this. I thought those were the two biggest storylines of today's game, probably.
Yeah, and now you feel like every time they give Zachariah Branch the ball, there's a chance that he's going to score. So shifty. I mean, making guys lose their ankles out there left and right. And one thing that we had talked about in the pregame show with me and Cody was who's going to be the emerging star of this team? Who's going to have those viral plays? Zachariah Branch was one of our candidates, and I think we were validated in that decision tonight because, wow, he's so exciting to watch. It feels like he's a piece that Georgia's been missing for a while. And then on the defense, Raylan Wilson. Wow.
Yeah, good point.
First sack, multiple tackles for loss, and we've talked a lot about C.J. Allen and Chris Cole and Justin Williams, but the fact that you have four of them together in the same room, it's just the Georgia way being able to reload that linebacker room, and I thought that Raylan Wilson stood out today on the defense.
Great work today, Kaylee. Love that. Appreciate that, and thanks for being a part of our show. Good stuff from Kaylee Manziel. Also, our guy Treston hanging out with us here for the first time live at the UGA Bookstore. Appreciate him. And back in our DawgNation World Headquarters Studios in Atlanta. So many folks behind the scenes there that make all of this happen. Certainly very appreciative. We can't do what we do, taking the calls and the Zooms, showing the highlights, getting the press conferences. There are 9,000 moving parts of the show. We can't do it without a great group of folks who help us make it happen. All I do is stand here and talk. There is so much happening behind the scenes. I am grateful for it. Of course, our guy Jay Black kind of running point in it all, but we got some special folks helping us out here tonight back in Midtown. I certainly appreciate that in a very, very huge way. So thanks to all of you as well for watching the show. If you missed part of it, go back to the beginning and rewatch the entire thing. And check out the DawgNation content on YouTube. More from Gunnar, Kirby Smart, all the other Georgia players. You can peruse it all, learn everything you need to know about this win for Georgia. 45-7 is the final. Georgia gets ready for Austin Peay next week. Monday may be a holiday. We're going to honor Labor Day by laboring. We'll be back for DawgNation Daily and all of our coverage throughout the week. We have made it. The season is here. That's good news. Even better news, Georgia starts off 1-0. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week from the UGA Bookstore for our DawgNation Postgame Call-In show. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.